Second sock syndrome? What's that? Let's talk about it. Hey, everybody. Fran here, Blue Gal, and here to talk about socks today because I love knitting socks. And I'm going to show you this beauty that I started. This is the Zauberball, but it's not Zauberball, right? It's Studio 3. What is it called here? Edition 3, excuse me. Shopful Wool. Edition 3. Get that in focus. Is it going to focus? It's not going to focus. Edition 3. And this is colorway 20. Oh boy, I'm going to have a good day today. 2511. I bought this at the Fiber Universe in Peoria, Illinois. I bought the same colorway in 2 balls. These are 50-gram balls. And it is so soft and a little thicker than the Zauberball yarn. Same company. Little bit thicker. I'm still knitting it on size 1 needles. This is knit 1, purl 1 for about 1 inch, and then knit 3, purl 1, which is my go-to sock pattern. I'm at the heel now. This is 5 inches. I go do a 5-inch leg on most of my socks. And like I said, a little thicker, a little cushier than Zauberball, but colors are beautiful and it is very soft. And I'm just loving knitting it. So that's one. And then I started this in November. So this is not sock of the month for December because I started it before December 1st. The sock of the month that Grocery Girls Sock Bash Knit Along is doing is scrappy socks. And so I am really enjoying this one. This is all leftovers, and I'm using, look at that. Wowza. I'm using leftover sock yarn from all of the socks that I've knit this year. And in particular, as the main yarn, I'm using this one, and I can't remember what it is. Kind of looks red, white, and blue, but it's really more wine, teal, and beige. But it is a high contrast, stripy, narrow stripy, variegated yarn. And using that and doing single stripes with other colors, you can see I started with this green and then I went in and did with the variegated, alternated every row between the green and the variegated. Then I did that for 10 rows. Then I did 10 rows of the variegated, switched to a blue yarn that was also represented in that variegated. I matched the blue pretty carefully with leftover sock yarn. And 10 more rows, alternating in single rows. And then I started doing that again. I don't have a lot of this little brown gold, but I did it for 4 rows. And then I did solid this brown gold for 2 or 3 rows. I can't count right now, and you can see I've just got a little bit of that. That was a sample from Miss Babs. But I threw that in there. And now I'm at the heel. And the heel is, if you remember me doing the basket weave socks in September, I believe it was September, I had this Knit Picks. This is Knit Picks Stroll. Have enough of this left to do 2 heels. So that's where I am. And I'm doing 2 of them on 2 separate sets of bamboo. I'm always picking up bamboo needles when I shop for that single skein of sock yarn when I'm in a yarn store, pick up a set of bamboo. So I've got plenty of bamboo needles to do the socks 2 at a time, but on separate needles, and then separate sets of needles. And I'm going to talk about that because today is talking about something that I didn't realize it's been so long for me. Um, Finishing socks has been a thing for me for a long time. 2023, I knit a pair of socks every month. And then 2024, these two pairs that I just showed you are pair 14 and pair 15 for 2024. And I know people who knit, 2 or 3 pair a month. I am not quite there yet. I'm not, because I knit other things, but I was on Blue Sky with some other knitters, and by the way, Blue Sky is so great for knitting, guys. Get on there. It's just a wonderful group of knitters, and you just put the red yarn ball emoji in your post, and it goes to all the knitters. There's a just knitting kind of arrangement group where the bot looks for that emoji and looks for the word knit and puts all these posts together. And you could see it, and people are posting photographs of what they make, and they do gorgeous knitting, and it's just great. But we had a discussion on Blue Sky about second sock syndrome, and a lot of people piped in about, oh yeah, second sock syndrome is so hard. It's so hard to finish that second sock. And I was like, oh, really? Because I'm speeding along doing sock pair 14 and sock pair 15 for the year. And my brain hadn't been there in a long time. But so I thought about that this week and thought, oh, that's a really good topic for a podcast, because we all do get into, UFOs. And remember, next year, 2025, is the year of UFOs. I have a Ravelry group starting, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. The point about second sock syndrome is this belief that when you finish a sock, your brain tells you you're done. And so picking up and knitting that second sock, especially if you're kind of an ADHD or ADHDer like I am, if you feel such a sense of overwhelming accomplishment having finished that sock, that your brain doesn't want to pick up and start the second one. And it really takes retraining your brain to think of socks as pairs, and to think of a pair of socks as the project, not one sock. That can be hard to do, especially if you find it daunting to knit a sock. If you're not experienced in it, and you finish that sock and you have that sense of accomplishment, and then it's kind of a letdown to start the second sock. I totally get that. But socks are great little portable projects that you can take everywhere you go. They let you play with color. And, it is not the huge commitment that a sweater is, either in terms of money or time. But it is important to get over that hurdle of how do you train your brain to recognize socks as a pair? And so I have 3 techniques that I've used to get over that hurdle. The first one is probably the most challenging, and that is to train yourself and learn how to knit a sock in a week. It is so not difficult. There is such a resistance, I think, and there's a resistance in my own brain too, to deadline knitting. I hate deadline knitting. I don't want to do, that's not, it takes all the fun out of it, right? But if you are able to take a week and really focus on knitting a sock and finishing it in a week, and the way I did this was through Knitty Natty, and she is a YouTube channel, Knitty Natty, Natty. Natalie has way many followers on YouTube than I do. So you're probably familiar with her, but she does Sock Week in the summer. And I think she does Sock Week at Christmas also. I haven't participated in the knit along at Christmas time, but the knit along in the summer that she does for Sock Week, I have done. I've done maybe 3 or 4 times. I think 3 times, and I highly encourage you to join in with us in the summer and do and it's only one sock you're being asked to knit in a week. But it's also something that you can do any time of year. Just pick a week and start a sock and finish it in a week. And trust me, you will gain so much self knowledge from racing along and finishing that sock in a week. And I suggest for your 1 week sock, you pick a second sock because you will have already done one sock and know some of the ins and outs of it, and you won't be thinking as much about the process, and you'll get that second sock done faster. And I have learned, for instance, during sock week, I learned that I'm just faster on double pointed needles. It's just faster for me. My brain knows how to do that. And that's not everybody's experience, but it is mine. That I'm faster. The other thing is learning and knowing in your brain and telling your brain and proving to your brain that you can knit a sock in a week. Then it's no longer that daunting thing. And I think that was sock week. My first sock week was a very critical gate to go through in the path to a sock a month, a pair of socks a month. Once I realized I could knit an entire sock in a week, getting a pair of socks done in a month was not the daunting challenge that it could have been before. And it's no longer something that I procrastinate about. I simply, it's a month. I have to get a pair of socks done this month. Here's my socks. And I know I can get the first sock done in a week. I have 3 weeks to finish the second one. Bingo, I'm done. The second thing, second way that I have prevented second sock syndrome, and by the way, if you don't know what second sock syndrome is, it's you don't want to finish that second sock. Cast on the second sock while you were knitting the first sock. It's 2 at a time, but not like you think. And I don't do 2 at a time on on long circulars. Some people do that as well. Like I said, have lots of double pointed needles, bamboo and various metals. I do switch back to long circulars for the heel, just because then I know they don't fall off and I'm all set with that. So for the heel, I do switch back to long circulars, but for the leg and the foot, I'm doing it on double points and the toe. So I'll do 2 legs, especially like in this one case where I'm doing scrappy and I want them to match. I will do 2 legs, then 2 heels, etc. The sock is, I divide it up into 5, right? Here it is. Leg, heel, instep, foot, toe. And so I'll do 2 legs, 2 heels, 2 insteps, 2 toes. It's 2 feet, 2 toes. And with those scrappy socks, that way I know they match because I'm going and matching what happens. Then, and I think this is the one where I really tricked my ADHD brain into finishing more socks. And that is knit 2 at a time with different yarns. So here we have 2. Again, I'm going to smile so I get it on my. I'm always looking for that picture to put on the front of the YouTube. So here we go. This is hi there. So these are 2 socks, 2 different yarns. I get bored with this one, I pick up this one. I get bored with this one, I pick up this one. Or I take this one with me to lunch. I leave this one at home. And eventually one of them gets done, right? But if I'm bored with one, or I just don't want to work on a heel today, I have something else to do. And it gives your brain some variety. And I'm still trying to finish a sock in a week. So I will put one aside and eventually, Thursday or Friday of that week, go ahead and finish the first sock. And so I hope that those 3 ideas help you with if you are dealing with second sock syndrome, where you've got a sock finished and the rest of the yarn and the needles are in a bag and you just don't want to work on it. Sock knitting isn't for everybody, but it's my favorite thing to knit. And they make great gifts. I think they make better gifts than hats. Because regardless of what the colorway is, someone will appreciate a warm pair of socks. Whereas a hat they might not wear because it's not the right color. It doesn't go with their coat. It doesn't go with that, whatever. It is sizing is a little more personal. You've got to be a little careful that you knit them big enough or small enough. But otherwise, yeah, I love sock knitting. Um, and I will tell you also, this is just as an aside, uh, mittens. If you still have kids in school, one of the best Christmas gifts to give your kid's teacher is a pair of hand knit mittens, and make them bright and make them crazy. I did that one year for all of my kids' teachers, and one of my kids was special needs, so he had several teachers. I made them all crazy mittens on size 3 needles, and they were for their car duty. And so Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones had these crazy mittens that everybody knew were their mittens. And I spoke with one of the 5th grade teachers from my child who is now a senior in college, and she still has them, because crazy colors, she needs them for when she's out there directing cars when it's her turn to do that. And everybody recognizes that those are her special mittens for that duty. So just one idea for if you still have kids in high school or elementary school. I also want to talk for a moment today about 2025, the year of UFOs. It's time to start planning for the new year and making your resolutions and so forth and so on. If you haven't started thinking about that already, I was interrupted by an extremely naughty cat who has been removed. I want to talk just for a moment about a thing that I always wanted to talk to you about. 2025, the year of UFOs, Finisher Frog. And this is a Ravelry group that I have started. And there are great knitters signed up for this group. It's a support group to help you finish unfinished objects in the year 2025. It's now December, so we're starting to think about this more seriously. And I have been thinking about what I want to do early on, because I think it's really important when you're starting a New Year's resolution. For one thing, most New Year's resolutions last 3 weeks. And I want to plan beyond that, but I also want to plan some wins during that first 3-week period, that first month, so that I'm motivated to continue on. So, one of the things I'm doing is when I'm going through my UFOs, my unfinished objects, I'm not taking all of them out. One thing I'm doing that I hope other people will try, I am separating out blankets, because I have a number of blankets started that some of which were given to me as unfinished objects of other people at church. Yes, that has happened. And so I have, in one case, actually cast that blanket back on larger needles and started it over. But it is in process. Another one, I had to rewrite the pattern and figure out how I was going to be able to knit it at all. But I did that, and I've done a few rows, so I actually know, I've written down how to complete this blanket that someone else started again. And then I have a couple blankets that are my own projects that I've started. One is a Miter's Square leftover sock blanket, which is lovely, but it's a really long-term project. And then I have a kind of another mitered square, but it's larger. It's in worsted acrylic, and it's a baby blanket. So I have at least 4 blankets on the needles right now, and I'm going to save those for Lent. Yeah, I'm knitting blankets for Lent. and you don't have to be a practicing Christian or follow the church calendar to appreciate that Lent is this 6 week period that is already on the calendar, where it is kind of helpful, I think, to take a different approach to whatever you're doing or set aside something to do during that period. And so for me, Lent is going to be about blankets. I'll also be working on the monthly socks, but Lent this coming year is early March to mid-April. And so during that time, blankets. And so I'm not counting those in my January thinking. And I'm not counting socks in my January thinking because I'm already working on socks. So what I'm thinking about for January is going through the rest of those unfinished objects. The sweater, I've got a couple sweaters, I've got a scarf, a couple shawls. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'll have to go through, but what I'm doing is going through those, and one of the things I'm doing is really looking for opportunities to frog. I'm looking for opportunities to take things off the needles and say, no, I'm not going to finish that. That is not something I'm interested in owning. It's not something I'm interested in knitting, and really take that as a victory. It's important, and I've said this before, but I want to reiterate it. Deciding is the thing, and deciding that you're not going to knit something is as valuable to your artistic journey as deciding to finish something and finishing something. It is about how you use your resources, which include time, but also include yarn, and how you use those resources as an artist consciously is the goal. So frogging things and finding things to frog. Go on a frog hunt, right? In December, go on a frog hunt. And let's see how many things you can decide, I started this and I don't like it. And then the other thing I did, and this is a little nerdy, but it works for me. I am taking the I'm going to find 5 or 6, I think, UFOs. I think that'll be it if I don't count blankets. And assign them a score. Now bear with me on this. The score is made up of 2 numbers, and both numbers are scored 1 to 5. I know this is nerdy, but again, stick with me. 1 to 5, and the first score has to do with whether you want to knit this or not and how badly you want to knit it. So a score of 1 is, I'd love to be able to wear this in a month, or I am knitting this for somebody whose birthday is in February. And so, yeah, it's high on my priority to get it done before then. The want to scale of 1 to 5, and 5 is all the blankets, right? All the blankets are for Lent. I'm going to think about those then. They're off the list for now, and I'm not assigning these a score, but I'm saying if you have something that is long term, you're not interested in setting a goal with it right now, then that's a 5. If you are interested, there's a birthday or there's an event, I want to wear this shawl to a wedding, I want to wear this shawl to something in February, to Valentine's Day, whatever, you want to finish it. That's a 1. So you rank it that way. Then the second score is also 1 to 5. And one being, I know I can finish this in a month, right? I have all the yarn. I have the pattern. It's going well. I only stopped because I got busy with something else. I like knitting it, and I can finish this. That's a 1. 5 is, I just started this blanket. And again, I'm using blankets as an example, but I just started this sweater. It's bottom up. It's going to take a long time. It's color work. I know it's an investment. I'm saving it for when I go on vacation, whatever. That ability score to get it done, 1 to 5. And 1 is, look at it, it's got 10 more rows. Or, I've only got a sleeve left. I know I can get this done if I put my mind to it. That's a 1. And this is color work that I just started. I'm not going to finish that this year, or I'm saving it for a later time. That's a 5. And scale them that way. So I did that with 3 projects. I have a sweater. You've seen it before if you watch this podcast, that says hand knit on the front. It's just at the sleeves. So hand knit sweater. Want to is 1. Can finish it is 1. Those are both very high priorities. I really hope to finish this in January so I can wear it before it gets warm. So this is a score of 2. That's my hand knit sweater. Purple scarf. I have a purple scarf that I'm working on. It's not quite as high a priority as the hand knit sweater, but I know I can finish it. It's easy. I've got all the yarn. It's a slightly lower priority than the sweater. It has a little bit more to do on it, but it's a 3. So it's the final score on that is a 3. Then I have a wine colored cardigan. Again, wine colored cardigan is more of a spring inside with the air conditioning sweater, and it's acrylic. It's not something that, it's going to be bop around the house sweater. And so want to is a 3. Can is a 2. I know I can finish it. It's top down. I think I'm done with the body of it. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to check that. But anyway, it is a lower score. It is a 5 rather than a 2, right? The hand knit is a 2. The wine cardigan's a 5. Okay. Then once you've got these scored, and I would only do this with 5 projects. If you're like me, you have a lot of UFOs lying around. Don't try to do this with all of them. Pick 5. And I would suggest you do it at random, because this is about taking your UFO pile and chiseling it down, and within that group of 5, finding out which ones are your priorities. And this is when you're going to find the frogs. This is frog hunting. But now that I have these 3, I have a score of 2, a score of 3, and a score of 5. I'm going to put them in that order. So the lower score comes first. It's 2, 3, and 5. I'm going in that order, 2, 3, and 5. So I'm going to work on this one first. Nerdy way to convert your ability and your desire into numbers, and then use that as your priority. Am I a nerd? Yes. Okay. And higher scores doesn't mean necessarily frogging. Just because you're not able to finish it right away, like I said, you may be saving that for vacation. You might be saving that for, if it's a cotton sweater, you might just be saving it for summer knitting. That's fine. But the idea of want to finish and can finish are 2 different things, and setting them aside. And we all have these sweaters too, or these projects where the yarn didn't work, right? Or you don't have enough yarn to finish it. And so that's a frog, or that's a solve that problem. Find that yarn from somebody on Ravelry, or find that yarn someplace else. And frankly, I would say any project that scores higher than an 8 and you don't have it set aside for summer or vacation or some other time, I would consider that a frog hunt. I would consider that a frog. My ability to finish it and my desire to finish it are both fairly low. Maybe that's time to rethink whether that's the project for you. It's a personal thing. But if it's taking up space in your closet, it's also taking up space in your brain. And that space might be better used for something else. It's something to think about. All right. But the thing you want to be thinking about is joining us on Ravelry. And the link will be below. 2025, the year of UFOs, finish your frog. join me on Blue Sky, bluegal.bsky.social. I'm right there. I'd love to have you follow me, and I do follow back. Once a week, I go through and run a subroutine to follow everybody back that follows me. So I will get to following you if you follow me, especially if you were knitting. Then I'll definitely follow you back. Back to sock heels and colors and fun and brightening my day with colorful socks. And I hope that your day is bright as well. And have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week. Bye.